Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars, come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
And welcome to another episode of The Cocktail Lounge. I am your hostess with the mostest, Aggie, and with me as always is the ever suave, affable, and quaffable co-host, Brad Slager. How are you doing this evening, Brad?
What is going on this evening? Look at this. 2 weeks in a row I get you.
I'm trying to get back into the swing of things.
I'm going to start getting used to this if you're not careful.
Yeah, well, I'm iffy on next Tuesday, but that's for later.
See, I knew it.
I may have to take my sister to the airport. I can't help that.
Oh, well, if you gotta. But hopefully everything else has been going well enough for you.
Well, I've been cleaning house and doing laundry. I mean,
there's my Hellcat.
I know.
Well, it can't all be jubilation and
I don't have an exciting life like you do. Okay? I don't.
Well, I suppose I'll have to do it vicariously, as always.
Well, yeah, I know I do. But so it's been an end week. We had some news come down today about the beautiful bill, among other things. So it should be a fun show.
Yeah, finally. But I was actually laughing at the mayhem coming out of Great Britain this weekend. Apparently there was a punk rap controversy emanating from Great Britain, and I just had to sit back and laugh at this. But
I read about that, and I was just I listened to some of their music, and I was like, oh yeah, this is not for me. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like all manner of music. It's just it's a little too harsh for me. But the controversy surrounding this Bob Dylan, which is a interesting play on Bob Dylan. And I think you said that they were both named Bob.
Yes, this is a rap duo who go both by the name Bobby Villain, but they spell it differently. One spells it BBIE and the other spells it BBY. That's how you can tell them apart. Let's see. Okay. I mean, I guess every music act needs to have a hook, needs to have some kind of compelling reason to listen to them besides the music. But I don't think having two guys with the same first name, last name is on par with like the face paint of Kiss. You know, it falls a little short, is my point.
I mean, it can work like on a TV show. I'm Larry. This is my brother, Daryl. This is my other brother, Daryl. You know, it can work in Office Space, the two Bobs, as you are well familiar. But
Yes.
for music, I'm like, I was always confused when they went and did something weird, like the Thompson twins, and there were three of them. And I understand they were naming themselves after a kids show
Right.
that was very popular in Great Britain. But I mean, there's three, but you're naming yourself twins, but there's three of you. So I was just, I love the group. Don't get me wrong, but it never jived with me in my head. So.
Yeah, and then you had Milli Vanilli, and I still never learned which one was which. Weren't they twins or something like that?
No, I don't think they were even related.
What? Those
No,
sons of
I'm
bitches
serious.
look identical.
I could be wrong, but I was pretty sure they weren't related.
All right, I'll take your word for it because, again,
Yeah.
not my style of music.
Those guys are just mad they didn't do this like 25 years later because they'd have made bank on YouTube and TikTok, but instead of being, ostracized. So anyway, okay, shutting up now.
But the reason for ostracizing them had nothing to do with their names or their style of music. It was
But
the chanting.
Well, no, I'm talking about Milli Vanilli.
still got me.
Oh, them, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. If they'd just waited 25 years, they'd have made bank. But no.
They were ahead of their time.
And ostracized for being so.
Janet just tried to call me.
I know she called me. The cat.
What now?
Outside? Oh. This one or the other?
Orange one.
Okay.
Apparently, we're eavesdropping on Brad's domesticity.
I'm like, what's going on? Well, okay. So while we're waiting,
Welcome to Brad's Domestic Bliss on KLRN Radio.
but yes, there was a little kerfuffle over in the UK with the Bob Villain duo because they began to chant death to the IDF. And the kerfuffle actually happened due to the fact that the BBC did not pull the plug on that. They just let it play. And, they came back and said, yeah, that was our mistake. We should have plugged it. We should have censored it. We should have done this. We should have done that. There's really, and nobody's answering why they didn't, because they did have the opportunity. The Glastonbury Festival is broadcast live every year, but they had the opportunity to actually, the moment it started, they could have, cut the mix or cut the sound or whatever, and they didn't do it. So a lot of people are actually wondering why the BBC did not take that step. They have not really answered in a satisfactory manner. And it's, it's really funny because I'm like, everybody should have the opportunity to chant whatever they want to, but there is a line that you have to respect. When you start actually advocating for violence, people should step in. And that's what UK has been doing under the guise of, oh, your tweet offended somebody, we're going to put you in jail. And so a lot of people are very confused. Well, so why is it that this was okay for you to broadcast, but somebody tweeting, I'm not comfortable with the Muslims protesting down my street, that's offensive and they get time in jail. I mean, these are the people that will arrest you for praying outside, not even praying outside an abortion facility or anything. If you're praying outside, they will arrest you.
Well,
It doesn't matter where. So it just made no sense.
To be fair, I think it was because those two were chanting in Cockney English, East Side. So it wasn't death to the IDF. It was deaf to the IDF. So I think the BBC thought they might be able to get away with it. Just
and let's not forget the BBC is probably complicit in it too. So that might have been part of the issue.
Well, that's what I looked into today, actually.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah. I came back. I got kicked off my phone because a family called. Sons of bitches. It's like, geez. Whatever solution I come up with is getting squirrely, but whatever. But no, there's I think she's a wife of somebody in their parliament in Britain. She was recently convicted for putting out a tweet. Literally convicted. So she basically got mad that some immigrants had killed or raped a few girls in Britain, and she went on Twitter and says, you know what, the hotels that are housing them, we should burn those down, get rid of it, nobody in the city anymore, and this was racist and this was offensive. And she took it down after a couple of hours, but it was still seen by people. She got charged. This woman's in jail for 31 months over a tweet.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't say kill people or anything like that. She meant burn down these buildings so these people aren't housed in our city and committing these crimes anymore. But this was offensive. Yet, what I looked into was the very statute that they prosecuted her with. Lo and behold, all the things that they applied to her applied to the rap group calling for the death of Israelis. How about that? Oh, and by the way, the BBC broadcast this concert, never took it down, and they even put out a message, like, oh, we screwed up, we should have blocked this, or we shouldn't have broadcast this particular act, our fault. So they're admitting guilt. And the same statute actually has a provision in there that says if you broadcast something that is considered a hate crime or offensive or racist, you can be also guilty. So the BBC is actually guilty of this. And there's some wording in there too, like they could be let off the hook if they didn't know, except they put out a warning to audiences ahead of this act. So clearly they knew there might be something objective about these people on stage. So yeah, they're fully culpable. I mean, if you're going to bust somebody for a tweet, 2.5 years in jail, guess what? These guys should be sent away. Wow, for calling for death on a much larger platform, much larger audience.
You're calling for death for
see if there's any recriminations.
And they were calling it for death against a group that is basically tasked to protect the Jewish population in Israel. They're the biggest, block that anybody that wants to harm the Jewish population there has to overcome. And they're calling for their death. And I'm like, because why? Because they are the biggest block. So you remove the block and that way it's easier to wipe out the entire Jewish population. Is that what this is about? And it's funny to me because I know that there are Arabs that actually serve in the IDF. It's not just Jewish people who serve on the IDF. So it's very difficult for me to try and understand this motivation.
Well, it's just the hypocrisy is what gets me, is that if you dare say something like we should deport these people, you're actually threatened with jail time for expressing that opinion. But for some reason, if you go in the other direction and call for the death of people on the other side of the conflict, somehow that's not racist, that's not threatening, that's not endangering anybody. How do you operate in this fashion? It just, and I don't want to say that I'm a First Amendment absolutist, but I'm pretty close to it. However, yes, calling for violence and death of individuals pretty much crosses a line. So you're already in trouble.
Yes, because you're actually infringing on somebody else's right to exist. So, yeah, there is a certain line. It's like everybody jokes, your First Amendment right stops at my front door. The moment you cross my threshold, you have to observe my rights too. So I like I said, for me, I can't make it work in my head because I just cannot put myself into thinking the worst of people. But there are some people out there that completely understand it. That's scary.
Yeah, it's just the rampant hypocrisy is what gets to me. I mean, if you express an opinion that they don't like about immigrants, you're in trouble. But if you turn around and say, yeah, those people over there should die, river to the sea, and wipe out their military, death. Well, it's nuanced. You have to look at it from the shut up with that crap. Did you guys discuss all the trouble they got in here in the States already?
No, we didn't get to that.
I mean, it is like I'm at least surprised at the rapid nature of things. So after this concert and Glastonbury,
yes,
where they performed, they've already lost their representation. So their agency has dropped them. And then the U.S. State Department stepped in and it was like, oh, you're calling for the death of individuals and supporting terrorism. That voids your visa. So you gentlemen are not going to be permitted to travel to the United States now. And you might say, okay, big damn deal. But I think they had something of a 36-city tour set up in North America this summer.
Not anymore.
Canceled.
If
you have purchased tickets, you can get your refund at the box office available.
As always, the one person that has to deal with this entire headache is the publicist, the guy that handles all the PR. And as I understand it, there's no longer a publicist or a PR guy because the agency representing them, let them go. So I don't see how they can come back from this.
Well, I mean, they're not, I don't think they're going to go away or anything like that, but this is going to impact the funny thing is, was it a couple of years ago, these same idiots put out a tweet mocking other groups that can't be successful. It's like, well, if you're going to go out and be dum-dums and do stupid things, then your career is going to be impacted.
A prophetic.
Well, that came back to haunt you a little, did it not?
I think we all remember back, I want to say 2004, 2003, maybe that time frame. Dixie Chicks were performing in Great Britain, and they basically screamed about how, President Bush was not their president, and they're very ashamed of their country and all that stuff. And they had a lot of backlash, and everybody's like, oh, the records are just, it's going to fail and everything. And it didn't really hurt their record sales at first. But it did hurt them because they did not get, when they came back to tour here in the United States, there were several venues that had to be changed because they were not selling them. So they have to go into smaller venues. And I know that they're still around, but that really hurt their careers. I mean, because they were a very popular group. Yeah,
they lost airplay. You the only time you really hear them now is like on Spotify or something. Yeah, their concerts went way down. They had to play smaller, like 3,000 seat venues and stuff like that now, and it affected them big time. And it wasn't without push either, because they were on the cover of Rolling Stone and the media was all on their side. Oh yeah, they badmouth Bush, they shouldn't be punished. And it's like, well, the American public thinks otherwise.
I think that was when I started really paying attention of how the media and the public what's going on with the public is not covered. The media is completely disconnected. That's when I first started to notice. I should have noticed well beforehand.
Yeah,
but,
this was like, I mean, we're talking what, 20 years out maybe, and yeah, I mean, it was kind of a start of a divide. But even back then, I think the press still had themselves entrenched with the national narrative to a degree, and it was definitely a sign though, because as much push as they got, the public is like, well, yeah, screw that. This is 9/11. We're all on one side now, and meanwhile, Toby Keith's career just blew up from that point on.
Yeah, and he was never, he always said he was a Democrat. He was liberal and everything, but for him, it was about the American people and it was about our servicemen. And he was very adamant about respecting the country he lived in, and everybody loved him. Everybody loved him. I cannot think of anybody who didn't like Toby Keith at all.
But the thing is that they thought they were buying in to whatever's going on in the entertainment industry. They weren't looking at the nation. And so everybody in movies, recording and all that were, oh, we can't go to war. Oh, even though they attacked us, we brought it on ourselves. That mentality. Meanwhile, the bulk of America was waving the flag and saying, that's it, we're going to shithammer whoever did this to us. They didn't read the room being the entirety of the country, but, and they paid a price. And it's always the same. And we're even seeing it with these two idiots from Britain right now, is that when somebody comes out in the entertainment industry and says something controversial and there's a backlash, it's like, oh, they're trying to silence them. And there they are on the cover of Rolling Stone, the trio of girls, they're wearing nothing. They're all kind of curled up and covering themselves while they got words written all over and their mouths are taped over. It's like, oh, the Dixie Chicks are being censored. No, they're not. They're perfectly free and clear to say whatever they wanted to. People, though, didn't like what they were saying. And that's what they never seem to process this in their head. It's just, you can come out and say, kill the Jews. And if people are like, screw you, I'm not buying your album, I'm not going to your concert. Oh, look at you trying to silence me. No, their freedom of speech is being used against your freedom of speech. They're reacting to it. They're commenting and expressing their displeasure with what you had to say. It's a two-way street, and that's what they never seem to grasp. And the same guys too. Now they're trying to like play the victim.
Yes.
Well, we're not for the Jews and Arabs or any other race or group of people. Oh, okay. So when you said death to the IDF, that wasn't calling for their death. I mean, come on. This is how stupid it gets. So they're in that cycle right now where they're trying to play the victim. Oh, man, people are coming back at us for what we said on stage. Okay, and now you're bitching what people are saying about what you said on stage. You see how that works? That's the part they never grasp. It's like you're not allowed to criticize their freedom of speech.
Nope. Well, I'm sure that they will learn their lesson. Maybe. There's a 50 chance.
But it's just it's what we have to deal with anymore. Is, go out and say whatever you want, fine, but you're going to get a reaction. That's the thing. When people are provocative, they then act surprised and shocked when they actually provoke a reaction. Why'd you open your app in the first place?
Well,
I mean, if you didn't,
they honestly thought that because of they what they see online they thought it was the bigger slice of the pie, and it's a very, very thin slice of the pie when it comes to how people feel about this entire situation. And they on it because that is the slice of the pie that gets amplified. They thought that they were in the majority of that train of thought. So they felt safe saying all this stuff.
Well, they're perfectly safe, but you want to be brave and speak your mind. There's going to be a price to pay. That's otherwise you're not brave. That's the way it works. So if you don't want recriminations and you don't want to pay a penalty for upsetting a large group, maybe shut up. Just going to throw it out there. I'm not silencing you. I'm just proposing self-editing could be
self-editing. What's the adage? Better to remain, silent.
Yeah, keep your mouth shut and let people think you're stupid. Then open your
remove
mouth
all doubt. Yeah. Believe me.
Bastardized Mark Twain a bit on that one, but it's very pithy.
I lived by that when I was in college. It served me well.
Well, there's a similar topic we can broach here. Try to segue a little bit, and that is the opinion of the country reflected by others based on this Gallup poll.
That was a really interesting Gallup poll. I'm not a big poll person. Polls can, you're not asking the question of everybody. So the sample can fluctuate in size and can fluctuate in, political and, how people identify themselves. I have a girlfriend that identifies herself as moderate. She's voted blue down ballot since I've known her. So but she identifies as moderate. So, there's polls can be a little iffy, but this one was really interesting.
Well, the reason I give these polls a little bit more traction, I'll say, is because they're done on an annual basis and they're not specifically driven from a political viewpoint, even though they ask people, what's your affiliation, how do you vote, what's your age, all of that. They're not leading them in the same fashion that political election based polls are. So there's, they're not doing push polling or veiled language or anything of the sort. It's just pretty much, what's your opinion of these things? And then you rate 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, that kind of thing, Not at all, a little, medium, a lot, that kind of crap. It's a little ponderous to go through it, but generally it's supposed to be that way. It's very neutral, very vanilla, so as not to influence. And the fact they do it year after year and they can track it over decades tells us a lot more, I think. So this particular one, I got this one from Micah. He put it out there from Town Hall, actually, our site, but he found this one from Gallup and basically asked people, what's your opinion of the country, your pride in being an American? And the graph that they put up was based on political parties. So how do Republicans, Democrats, and independents view the nation? And this is over the span of, what was it? Probably 20 years?
It was from 2000 until 2025, I think. So it was at least a quarter of a century, yeah.
Quarter of a century. So a good spread. And the percentage of Republicans who look favorably on America trends pretty much from like 89% to 95%. Almost a flat line, very high. And the Democrats from that point in time are almost on a steady descent. And you even see the spikes with the Democrat Party based on who's in power. And anytime it's a Republican, downward slope. And you see an uptick when there's a Democrat president, and then a downtick when it's Trump, and a bit of an uptick in the Biden years, but then now straight down again and under Trump. I see this. I believe this takes place. In fact, I know people right now that are saying, oh man, I'd love to move to Canada today. It's like, why? What is so horrid in your life today that you want to go to Canada? And this is, we're out at a bar. And nothing bad has taken place, but you're like, oh, it's like some commercial came on, I think. And it was like, oh man, Canada, that just sounds so damn good. I'm sick of being an American these days. I am not proud to be an American. Why? Seriously. And it's ridiculous because they're just so entwined with who's in the White House, and one guy affects them so much. A guy that doesn't know they exist. That's the part that
I think that's why they don't like it. It's because, it's the whole Don Draper thing. I don't think you at all. I don't think about you at all. That kind of thing. And they absolutely can't stand that.
But this is reflective of people listening to the worst in the country right now. And whether it's the media, constant drumbeat of negativity about the White House, or social media and the people in their bubble. I'll tell you what this poll reflects more than anything else. And again, Republicans, what is the number? It's like 89 and 95. It vacillates on that very thin spectrum over the course of 25 years.
Yep. It was pretty steady.
And literally the Democrats plunged from I think they were in the 70s around 2000 and now down in the 30s.
Yeah.
Pride in the country. Like 1/3 of the party has pride in the United States. And you want to talk about the divide in this country. This is emblematic of it. I think if the Democrats were up there and saying, we disagree with him, but we love the country, there'd be a lot less division right now.
I do think that you're right. It amazes me to hear people how ashamed they are of the country, how they have no pride in this country or anything. And one thing that really struck out at me wasn't this poll, but it was a headline saying that the Democrats are going to reclaim the flag. And I was struck by that particular term, reclaim, because reclaim actually implies that something was taken from you and you're taking it back. Like I told you, the example that I can think of was France reclaiming the Alsace region from Germany. Germany had claimed it during previous war and France took it back in the second war. So they reclaimed it. It had been theirs, it had been taken away, and they got it back. By the same virtue, when you say that you're reclaiming the flag, you're implying that the flag was taken from you. And that's not what happened at all. They literally were the first ones to set it on fire. They, everybody still remembers the picture of Bill Ayers, the weatherman, the Weather Underground guy, him standing on the flag. And that was a famous portrait that he had done. And he's literally standing on the flag. The flag's on the ground. You can't tell me that this flag was taken from the left or from the Democrats. No, they decided to toss it away. For them, the flag became problematic because the flag was an emblem of freedom, an emblem of, liberty, which, yes, those are two separate things, but freedom of all that's good in this country. And yes, there is bad. I'm willing to admit that. I see it all the time, but the flag itself is not something that's bad. But what it stood for, they didn't like. And that's why they decided to try and destroy it. And now they're coming back with this whole reclaim thing. And I'm like, yeah, that's not the right word. Of course, they can't use the right word because then the game would be up. But, I stand here and I'm looking at it going, y'all did this to yourselves. You did this on purpose because you're you.
No, they were the ones that shun it, and they've been, you see this on the left when they say things like, "Oh, you can't put the flag out there because it's triggering and some people are offended by it. And the people that are putting this out there are jingoistic and they're promoting the worst aspects of this country. And they don't look at the dark history of our nation, all of this crap. That all comes from the left. And they actually mock people, cowboy hat or something of that nature. It's like, oh, yeah, look at this. And now all of a sudden they're going to reclaim it. Yeah, sorry. This again is the party that has waved every flag but the U.S. flag in the last couple of years. Ukraine, Palestine, Pride. I mean, you get is the Stars and Stripes anywhere in the top 10 even?
They literally tried to equivocate the flag emoji with white nationalism.
Yeah,
and you're telling me now you want the flag back? You're the ones that threw it away.
What party was waving the Ukraine flag inside the House chambers a couple
No,
years
that
ago?
would be the left. That would be the liberals. That would be the Democrats. Yes. So I see this poll and I'm like, I'm especially struck by the big dips and when they occurred. And you saw 2016 and this one, 2024. I'm like, gee, I wonder what happened then.
But that's the thing is like throughout the Joe Biden 4 years, I wasn't sitting there bemoaning the country. I was saying he was a blind jackass and I wanted to know who was running the show, but I still didn't impact my impression about the country itself. The respect even for the presidency, even though the man in the office I didn't respect all that much, I still respected the office.
Well, that's because we can separate one from the other. And apparently liberals cannot seem to do that.
No, and look how many times it happened to me again today. There was a topic. I don't know, somebody on social media, and I responded to it. And the first thing they did is come back. Oh, yeah, but when Trump does this, it's like this topic had nothing to do with Trump. And they go right to it. It's like, how do you even operate that way? Literally for the last 4 years, if somebody came at me with a topic, it wasn't like, how does this apply to Biden? And barked. And no, you stay on topic. But Trump, that's an affliction. The people that are like that are the ones saying, yeah, I'm not proud to be an American. And it's a shame that people have that mentality. But I've witnessed it. Like, I'll be out at the tavern and hearing people say this stuff. And it's like, what is so horrid in your life that you're ashamed to be an American while living here still, by the way?
And that's another thing. They don't leave. Like, it's so horrible. You're so ashamed of this place. Why don't you go someplace where you're not ashamed? They won't leave. And we all know why. And it's the same people that are like, this place is so horrible and everything. Why is everybody fighting to get in then? Why is everybody coming here then? And they cannot answer that. And why aren't you leaving? I have tremendous amount of respect for people who don't like the politics and decide to leave the country and live elsewhere, because at least they're following through. They're actually sticking to their principles and they are following through with their, with their whatever train of thought that they have regarding the state of the country and going somewhere else where they feel they may be better off. I'm perfectly fine with that. Johnny Depp did it. Portia de Rossi and Ellen DeGeneres did it. I believe Rosie O'Donnell as well. She's gone to Ireland. There've been
left
several.
Miami.
Did she? I heard some rumor that Ireland wanted her gone too, but that's a rumor. It has not been substantiated. I have no idea. But the thing is, they didn't like it. They left. Okay. And then when things went back to their version of normal, they came back. Johnny Depp did. He came back. He hasn't left again. I believe that he decided to stay. But the thing is, you can have issues with politicians. You can have issues with the politics. You can have issues with whoever is in the presidency right now. That's fine. But to say that you're ashamed of this country without doing anything about it, I mean, there are some people obviously that don't have the financial means to actually just pick up and leave somewhere. But you can pick up and leave somewhere that's closer to your political alignment than where you're at. I've seen people do that too. I've seen people move from small towns to, blue cities here in Texas, because that for them is more politically viable for them. My niece being the first example that I can think of. She left a predominantly red area. She just didn't like it. She moved to Austin, where she is more comfortable in her liberalism. And I'm perfectly fine with that, And it's funny because when she comes to a get together or whatever, she starts making fun or being very derisive. I don't know what the term is, but there's derision in the way she speaks to other people about their politics. And I've had to actually pull her apart and say, you're not in Austin anymore. And these people are older than you are, and you will respect them. And
honestly,
she was sharp
think
after
about
that.
it. Throughout the course of your day, how much do politics even infringe on your activities? When your face is not buried in the phone, just when you're operating, when you're going to the store, you're doing other things in public, how frequently do national politics have an impact on what you're doing? Because I live in a red state, but the county I live in is basically navy blue. But that's as far as voting goes. Even in my, the city I'm in is probably, I'd have to say Democrat. I don't even know the municipality of it, because what goes on in my life is not a day-to-day political involvement outside of what I do for a living, obviously. But when I step out the
I was going to say,
I'm not, it's like, well, I better put on my red hat because I'm walking out, or nope, oops, blue county, I better put a different hat on. I don't operate that way. I can go to the grocery store, go to the bar, go shopping or anything else, and I'm not afflicted by it. If I go to a concert that takes place in town, it's like, which side is the Republican? I have to go sit with them. No, it doesn't work that way. You go out and live your life and you do your stuff. That's the thing. The people that are just absorbed in social media to the extent that every little thing has to involve Trump in some capacity, it doesn't exist. And it just, it's amazing that people still operate that way, though. It's like, oh, I can't believe this. But you're at a grocery store. What can't you believe? There's nothing political taking place here. But that's the way some people are wired anymore. It's like every single thing has to be political. No, it doesn't. So yeah, it's, you could say, oh, how can you live in that blue county? It's like, because I don't notice it. It's besides property values and things like that, which pretty much affect the entire state right now because everybody's moving here, despite my best efforts this Saturday to drive people away. The impacts is just not there. I don't see it, but it cracks me up to see people react that way.
I just, for me, it's been rather eye-opening to see that poll, because I honestly didn't want to believe that one party was so abhorrent about this country. And I can't think of this being an issue like in Puerto Rico, that, like I said, we have two parties, and one likes to pretend they're Republican, but they're really just Democrat light. Neither party has ever said anything about being ashamed of the island, or, when say Democrat light actually wins and the governorship or whatever, the Democrats, there's no shame. There's nothing like that ever happens. And we are a very emotional lot. Okay. I've never seen it in Mexico. Hell, I didn't even see it in Germany when I was living there. And this was when Gerhard Schroeder and Angela Merkel were head to head on winning, who was going to be the prime minister, and everything. I never saw anything like that, where the one party that lost was, ashamed of being German, ashamed of living in such a horrible country. I've never even seen it. I've never seen it outside of here. I'm sure it happens. There's 130 odd countries or whatever. I've forgotten the total count of countries, but it's weird to see it here.
But your home island, we're seeing people voting with their feet, or swim fans, I guess you could say, because so many have emigrated from Puerto Rico to the mainland. But this is more economic driven, I'm sure. I mean, we've talked about it plenty of times about how.
Well, yeah, after Irma and Maria did such damage to the island, a lot of them decided, hey, we can't do this anymore, and they left. Some of them said,
actually, I had covered this. It was actually, it predated the hurricane. The hurricane provoked it. A lot of people jumped over. In fact, I saw somebody made a graphic based on cell phone travel, how many left. It was staggering to watch how many just flooded out of the island. But the decade before the storms, there was this mass migration taking place from Puerto Rico, and all of the white collar and professionals were leaving because the economy was so bad, but also the rules put in place by the local government regarding employment and other things just drove them. And they've gone to New York. There are now tons of them here in Florida. More people live on the mainland that are Puerto Rican than live on Puerto Rico. And that is, it's not, I'm sick of this place. It's just, we can't hack anymore. We got to go elsewhere.
Well, no, I mean, there's the whole issue with the power grid is still a big problem. And it has been held together with bazooka gum and baling twine for at least 40 years that I can recall. And that's not the only problem. You cover that there's an issue with the garbage. There's an issue with the water table. There are several issues that have not been addressed for decades. And people are like, we can no longer even afford to live here because all of this stuff is breaking, and we need a safer, cleaner place to live, and they'll leave. And the whole garbage issue is just, it's alarming to me because they've had decades to actually fix this. It's not a hard fix, but they didn't want to throw money at it to fix it in the beginning. And now the EPA is stepping in, and it's going to be a massive amount of money to get they were dumping in unlined areas. So all of the garbage is seeping into the water table. So the water table is getting contaminated. And they're like, we don't know how that happened. Oh, really? Oh my God. I got to shut up because it's just another thing that just pisses me off no end.
And the biggest problem of all is a comedian noticed this problem.
Yes. And someone noticed that problem. And of course, they went after the comedian. And I'm like, Puerto Rico is a garbage dump. Yes. And I don't know how else to explain it to you, but here are some pictures that I got from my cousins who actually went to the dump site.
So you're angry for him being accurate. Okay, understood. Well, here's
the beautiful part is that my cousins actually sent me those pictures, and they were the ones pissed off about what the guy said. And I'm like, wait, this makes no sense.
There's an account you should go check out. Yours.
Yes.
But are you ready for a fantastic segue here?
Yes.
Prime example of being incapable of divorcing politics out of anything. Let's see. It was a week or so ago. We just experienced the 50th anniversary of the release of the movie Jaws.
Da-dum. Da-dum.
talked about this on the Culture Shift the other night. How
I
NBC
bet you did.
was the #1 show on television. The Friday night they played Jaws on its 50th anniversary, and then next month they're actually releasing it back into theaters. You can go watch it in surround sound, Technicolor, all of that. But the part I had to crack up about, over at the Atlantic, that hothouse of liberal egg-headedness came out with a piece about what the movie Jaws means today. So basically, it's entitled "What Jaws Got Wrong." I love this. Written by somebody born after the movie came out, but basically what they're saying is the novel differs from the screen depiction of the Peter Benchley storyline. Basically, it's a classic example of how they flipped the script. In the novel, the Richard Dreyfuss character of the professor who comes in and he is basically the voice of reason and explaining things about the shark and is the motivator for rescuing things. And in the movie, apparently, they feel he was diminished because he wants to save and preserve the shark while the townspeople want it killed for their own safety. And this was an indication of, I guess, the rise of populism against expertise.
What?
This is the takeaway. This is the poll line that cracked me up. It portrays class divisions very differently from the novel that inspired it, in ways that anticipated a fight that has arguably defined American politics since at least 2016. So what took place in 2016? Significant on the...
It's at the tip of my tongue.
I'm going to peer over on the political spectrum and see what was 2016. Oh, you mean the rise of Trump and the populism that ushered him into office. So Jaws anticipated the class divisions that led to Donald Trump. That would be 40 years out. You're grasping at straws at this point. I'm sorry. Just stop it. A shark movie from 1975 is not depicting the rise of Donald Trump today.
I've read the book, but I'm pretty sure, I think Richard Dreyfuss' character in the book dies in the book, doesn't he?
Spoiler alert, Aggie.
I'm sorry. Hey, like the book hasn't been around. But I'm pretty sure he does, and he doesn't die in the movie. So I'm pretty sure that Robert Shaw's entire soliloquy was on the book either. I mean, I don't. There's certain creative licenses that are taken when you're adapting a book into a film. The biggest, and believe me, I am not a fan of these things when they happen. When it happened with The Natural, I was livid. I like the movie. I love baseball movies. For some weird reason, I'm very attracted to baseball movies. The Natural was a beautifully made movie. But the thing was, Roy was not a good guy. In the end, he was the bad guy. But Robert Redford could not have Roy be the bad guy. So he changed the entire ending for the movie, And if you don't read the book and just see the movie, you're going to fall in love with baseball all over again just watching that movie. It's just that good. But if you know the book, you're going to get pissed off, like I did. It's the same thing with other, it's other books, and it is a creative license. There is, for him to actually take a film that was made in, 1975, and talk about that as it applies to what happened in 2016, that's beyond species. I mean, that's just, there are not enough straws for him to grasp.
Well, you see,
know?
the character of the male of the mayor of the town wanted to portray the avarice of our government at the behest of the safety of the townsfolk, and that shut the hell up. It was a giant fucking shark, okay?
It's a shark.
I would dare say most of the plot of the movie was not being looked at as some kind of apt metaphor of the sweeping political landscape. It was, son of a bitch, the mechanical shark broke. We got to do something different today.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was such a mess, the making of it. But I got to give props. That movie, I avoided the beach for about 4 years. For 4 years, I did not dip my toe into the waves at the beach. I just did not do it. Now keep in mind,
I'm a lot more cavalier when it comes to nature. Like, I'm the dumbass that goes out and grabs the gator by the tail when we're out in the kayaks and stuff like that. So, it didn't apply to me.
I got over it. I mean, after all, I went into a shark cage, the year after that. So, after I overcame my fear, but
shark cage, come on, it's cheating.
I didn't say the shark stayed out of the cage. Just the big one stayed out of the cage.
No,
the little ones would come in just fine. I was like, I watched that. I think it was 1978 when I got around to watching it, and I was just petrified. I would not go into the beach. I would not. I mean, I had issues with a lake, and I had issues with rivers. I had issues with water overall. Even though my mind knew that there were no sharks in the creek, or whatever, I was still very hesitant. But I definitely not the beach. For 4 years, I did not go to the beach. I didn't. And if I went to the beach, I would stay in the sand, in the driest part of where the sand was, not even wet sand.
Yeah, and this is me. I remember I was like high school or such, and I was with a girlfriend at the time, and we went to the beach at night. I was like, let's go swimming, and we're out in the water, and something hit her foot. It was probably seaweed or something. She screams, and she's like, "Oh my God, we're gonna die." I was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "We're gonna get attacked."
No.
I said, "Okay, I know for a fact you were at the beach this morning in the water." She's like, "Yeah, but it was in the daytime." I was like, "What?"
But it was in the daytime? Is that what
something new has arrived at night that doesn't exist in the ocean in the daytime? Is that what you're saying? And then I, probably didn't score any points either. I say, well, if you're that scared and thinking something might notice us, maybe stop screaming would help.
Yeah, you're kind of like making
Splashing
yourself
and drawing attention to yourself.
Yeah.
Probably not advisable if you're worried about getting attacked at night, but okay. But it's just, I love that crowd. I've free dove with sharks before. Like, I've gone down anchor line scuba diving and had a hammerhead were migrating. We had to actually pull through them, and then one knocked my mask off. It's like,
wow, dude.
They seem kind of headstrong, so we'll just keep going. And that's when he goes diving with a bunch of male idiots, and everybody looks at each other and they're waiting to see if anybody else is going to chicken out. It's like, sharks, I'm still going. And okay, so am I. I'm not going to be the one to chicken out. And there you go. It's just the way the male mind works, or probably from your perspective, doesn't work.
Well, I'm over my fear, but now I can't scuba anymore.
I just love the fact that Jaws is now a metaphor of the Donald Trump presidency.
They could probably get, one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish to be a metaphor for the Trump presidency. They could possibly get the Betty Crocker Joy of Cooking, whatever it is, to be a metaphor for this presidency.
various colors displayed in the ichthyology realm that
You
are
see? You
emblematic
see?
of the immigration policies and how the various colored people are under attack and being, dare we say, netted by ICE. I
Yeah,
definitely know how to
there's a
talk.
way.
I definitely know how to talk college BS term paper. I know that language.
Yeah, you're really good at that, actually.
The we see this frequently when we talk about our scientific studies all the time here. What the experts are studying these days. Yeah, it's all really highfalutin bovine excrement is the way to describe it. Well, I know. Speaking of, did you want to cover some of the latest medical news that came across?
I don't. Well, I was, because of what we discussed, I actually went to clean out my ears.
You went where?
I went to clean my ears this afternoon. I started getting, I don't want it impacted. No,
Isn't
I don't
that
have a super soaker.
I think it's a psychosomatic reaction there, isn't it?
Yes.
It's okay. Well, this would crack me up because it comes from the National Library of Medicine, part of the National Center for Biotechnology Information. I mean, this is highfalutin crap we're talking about here, okay? And I think you're kind of familiar with this because it comes out of Bethesda, right?
Yes. Yeah, I know where it is.
So this is totally you right here. This is right in your wheelhouse, Aggie. We're talking very serious and impactful medical information that I'm about to bestow upon you. So this
I
is
was quite impressed with the write-up, I gotta say, because it was not done as a journalist or a sensationalist, as I call them, would do it. This was done in a scientific manner, and I was quite impressed by it.
well, good, because I wasn't. But here's what we're talking about. This is a novel method for the removal of ear cerumen. And basically what they do here is describe the off-label use of recreational devices in the alleviation of a socially emergent ear condition. Already I'm in love with this. So basically, this is a study that centers on a 45-year-old male who was complaining of experiencing a profound reduction in his left ear acuity. And this happened while he was staying at an island college out in a rural section of Ontario. That's up in Canada, by the way. You know,
Yeah.
where the
Kanakistan.
Syrians are at.
Yeah.
He described that his hearing loss was reducing an ability for him to hear his newborn son who was with him on this trip. And he wasn't able to hear him cry in the middle of the night. He did describe that he'd been swimming a number of times and also experienced ear infections as a child, things of this nature. So in looking to come up with an application to alleviate this problem with the affected ear, they didn't have all of the necessary materials. They did have an otoscope available, and the examination of the external ears was conducted, and the nature of his problem was revealed as a bilaterally impacted ear cerumen buildup. However, they didn't have the expected tools in order to address this problem, an ear syringe or any of the sort, and none were available on the island in which they were visiting. So they contacted the owner of the property that they had rented out, somebody who had a very extensive array of tools on the site, but nothing that could really be used to directly apply to the needed condition, alleviation that he's experiencing. And this is when the owner of the property suggested they go and contact a different source. The 4-year-old grandson of the owner of the property. And so the family had an emergency physician who assessed the utility of a device that they acquired from the 4-year-old in order to address this problem. Went out on the back deck and started to conduct a procedure in which they can address this problem. And actually, after a few applications, were successful because they were able to use a Super Soaker Max D 5000.
I'm gonna have to get me one of those. I'm gonna have to try that. I need to try it. And they explained because of the way the Super Soaker is built, that where the pump is at, they could not put it close enough to the ear, so they had to they aimed it towards the outer part first, and then they moved in, right?
Well, you're using layman's terms. Let me be a little bit official here, Aggie. So
Okay,
people,
I'm sorry.
if they want to actually use the SSMD/5000 in this capacity, they need to have the proper application of this. So basically, the device was filled with body temperature water and then mildly pressurized using the blue hand pump. Once the trigger was depressed, it released a gentle, narrow jet, which was then aimed along the posterior wall of the ear canal. And then after approximately 15 seconds, the jet was then aimed along the anterior wall. And this cycle was repeated until the device was empty of the necessary fluids. And midway through the second load application, wax particles began to run out of the ear. And just after starting the third, the large plug of wax burst forth from the patient's ear. And he was successfully able to hear in a proper fashion. There you go.
And thus was able to hear the child and get up in the middle of the night after all.
So according to the National Center for Biotechnology information found at the National Library of Medicine, if you're on a remote Canadian island, get yourself a damn Super Soaker.
I don't know. I think it would be more convenient to actually take a bulb or a syringe with you than a Super Soaker, but you don't get as much fun out of that as you would a Super Soaker.
A bulb and a syringe are not badass.
This
like
is
an
true.
SSD stroke 5000.
Oh man, I like I said, I commend them because everything was written in a very scientific manner, and they explained exactly how they used the Super Soaker. They didn't just say, and we shot some water into the ear. No, they were very precise in the description of how they went about doing this, in case sometime in the future somebody may need that information again.
I'm gonna go shoot that son of a bitch in the ear with my gun. What do I do? Use the anterior or posterior lobe in order to. Oh hell! The front one. Okay, that would be anterior that you want to start with, and then move to the back. I'm just gonna shoot him in the damn ear.
The front one. Oh goodness.
Love it. Love it. Well,
that's not the weirdest thing that I've read today.
Oh no.
No. President Bukele is threatening to send some of the prisoners in El Salvador over to Paris. And I'm like, I need to read about this. What?
Okay. I've been hearing all kinds of crap about how these deportations are taking place. We're sending them to El Salvador to their Supermax facility and how they're being mistreated. And, oh, it's just so oppressive. Bullcrap. They're going to Paris Fashion Week. That don't sound oppressive to me. But
No.
yes, this is the proposal that President Bukele has. I love this guy. I mean, I can't believe that he actually has taken a stand and hasn't been assassinated, for one. But two, has been successful at this. Like they said, the murder rate in El Salvador has plunged, what, like 97% or something ridiculous? I mean, damn. That's on par with the border crossings that we've seen in Texas and elsewhere that have plunged like 99%, and the media wants to pretend doesn't take place. But yeah, President Bukele is suggesting that they start to send inmates from his mega prison over to France for Paris Fashion Week.
I mean, this is, a lot of people don't understand how big this prison is. It has a capacity of 40,000. It can actually house 40,000 inmates.
Well, what I love too, though, is the complaints about everybody's saying like, "Oh, this is just this oppressive hellhole with no air conditioning." They just built this thing; it's brand new. So I'm sorry, it's not exactly like a rotting husk.
But what I find interesting is that people are saying, we're not, that it's inhuman and how they're treating and blah blah blah. And I'm going, you realize this is a prison, correct? And you realize this prison is not in the United States, again, correct? They're under no obligation to provide anybody in this prison with air conditioning and a gym area and a library and any of those things that some people think here in the United States we should do for our prisoners. The object of this prison is not leaving. These people will not leave this prison, okay?
Okay, but Aggie,
That's
you don't
not the way this
understand
prison
that
works.
Their Wi-Fi is only 2G. Is what I mean. It's what it cracks me up. It's like we're supposed to be sympathetic to hardened gang members that have been sent to this place. How about this? How about not killing people? During harsh conditions had you not tattooed your seventh. It's just, come on. I'm not really weeping. They're supposed to. But the whole purpose of the Paris Fashion Week cracks me up because there was one fashion designer, and I'm using the word fashion here in quotation marks, of where's his name? There he is. There was a fashion collection put on by Willie Chavarria, who's a Mexican American. Oh, is that it? I'm sorry. Forgive my Blanco tongue. He put on a display of, I can't even say it was his latest fashion line, because basically he had about 30 or so guys come marching out with bald heads and wearing white t-shirts, and then they kneeled down and then they bowed their heads in the exact same fashion as the prisoners depicted in the Supermax. So what are you doing? You want people to buy your white t-shirts? Is that your thing? What? I'd go to Hellmart and get a bag of Hanes for like $8. I'm not buying your $49 an inch t-shirt because some protest movement of yours. That's what it is. He's doing his fashion show, puts on a protest. Well, we disapprove of what's going on in El Salvador Supermax. And then some of the shirts had America upside down because they were reverting back to days of old or some nonsense. White t-shirts.
I thought it was because it was a tribute to, Australia. But yeah, go on.
So, and this is what Bukele is saying. He's like, oh, you guys want to protest us? Well, then we should share our prisoners with you there at Paris Fashion Week. What do you think? This is why I love the guy. It's like, this is okay. Nice to meet you.
But I mean, and the fashions, they sucked. I'm sorry, but they were over these huge shirts and huge shorts, and that's what they wore. And I'm like, that's not fashion. If you want to make a political statement, you can do that, with a ready to wear line. But if you're if you're going down on Paris Fashion Week, you want to do something ostentatious. That was not ostentatious. That was just stupid.
Yeah, their models are wearing looks like a 5XL t-shirt and plain white shorts past the knee, and that's it. Oh, and geez, I wonder if those shirts are under $300 per, I might buy a pair. Shut up.
Yeah, they look pretty silly.
Stupid is what I'm gonna go with there. But well, I mean, speaking of prisons, did you see what we're doing here in Florida?
Yes, and I am totally on Orti's side. It should be Gator Gitmo, not Alligator Alcatraz.
That could be the sequel, but
a sequel.
Yeah,
or that could be the annex.
yeah, exactly. But about a week ago, our attorney general came out, put a video up on social media, and he's on this long tarmac, and he's like, "This is it. We're going to be putting," and this is his introduction to Alligator Alcatraz. This is an old military base, decommissioned, I think, back in the 70s. It's out in the middle of the Glades, though, like middle of nowhere. But this is already established.
Yeah, it's not like they have to build anything. They have to retrofit and do some tweaks and here and there, but yeah, they don't have to build. The actual shell is there. Everything is there. What is it that they call it? The bones. The bones are solid.
Yeah, the infrastructure was in place for the most part. Mm-hmm. And what cracks me up is that, of course, all of the usual cranks showed up. There's the people worried about the environment. There were Native American groups talking about, oh, they're imposing on our land and in native territory and all of this stuff. This thing's been there for decades. They didn't just build this. It didn't say, that's it, we're taking over. No, this is an airport that has been there. And so they just said, hell, we got this huge spit of land. We could put up a facility on here and we can house up to a couple thousand deportation people. And if they want to escape, where are they going to go? Right into the gator python infected Everglades. I mean, this thing's out there, it's not even close. So, and there have been protests already on roadways and such.
How could we do this? I mean, they're gators and snakes, and it's just horrifying. People live there too. Okay, one of my girlfriends lives in Port St. Lucie. And she actually every morning she gets up to make sure that there are no gators on her dock where she goes out to have her coffee. It's like, and every so often she's like, well, I guess I can't have coffee today on my dock because there's 2 gators. So it happens.
I literally live, no lie, I'm like not even half a mile from the Everglades. I can get on my bike and I'm in the Glades in about 10 minutes. Heart of it. I'm talking water, saw palmetto, everything. Boom, I'm there. It's fact of life. So this thing is out there. We're talking miles and miles outside of Dade County. So yeah, if anybody escapes, where are they going to go? These people are complaining. They're protesting. Nobody's in there yet. I think it opens tomorrow. This is when they first start bringing people in. But it's a great setup. I mean, they got a huge facility they've already set up on there right next to a runway. So you can bring in hundreds of people on a plane, land, boom, they're housed immediately. And they're in.
Do they have air conditioning?
Yeah. I've seen the
Okay.
pictures. Somebody was out there today. They, some press took a tour of it. Somebody said, oh my gosh, look at that. There's chain link fencing inside this thing. They're putting them in cages. Okay. They're indoors with air conditioning, unlike this photograph I could provide you of Joe Biden caging people under an overpass in Texas and Arizona when it was 100 damn degrees outside on rocks.
Mm-hmm.
This looks better. I'm just saying. They got beds. It's
With mattresses.
pretty shiny flooring in the place, covered, and it's a pretty unique air conditioning too. If you look at it, there's in the rafter hanging down, it looks like every 8 feet or so, a long white sheet or something. But basically, they're going to pump the air conditioning through this, and they have holes staggered throughout with grommets, and that's where the air will come out. This is not like a concentration camp, is my point. And these people are already out protesting. That's the thing. It's like, this is inhumane. Oh, imagine if we actually get humans in there, what'll happen? The place is empty right now. I don't know what you're bitching about. Okay. But that's the thing. Is like, oh, Donald Trump puts up a chain link fence to house people. That is unethical and inhumane. And great. Biden did it. Obama did it. But that was different. Yeah, you're right. It was different. They were sleeping on a floor. These people have beds. That sounds like a step up to me. I saw one guy too was barking about it. He's like an immigration lawyer, and somebody pointed out that again. Hello, this is Obama caging people. Yeah, but we sued them, and we made them give them proper food and air conditioning. It's like, great, they already got it here. So what are you bitching about? We're going to sue them for something else. Everybody should have an iPad with a subscription to Cosmopolitan. Otherwise, it's inhumane. Great. And we're still talking about illegals who are being deported, so they're not going to be there all that long to start with. I don't know what to say. But this is the thing. This is what they're crabbing about.
Well, guess what time it is?
What time is it?
It's time to wrap up.
Well, okay. Well, I got one last segue.
All right, but make it fast because last time I didn't even have time to make my spiel. Go.
Okay. Speaking of alligators, there was a crocodile sighting in Italy, sort of.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff Bezos got married. A crap ton of billionaires that all want to save the environment took their private jets out to Venice.
Of course. On brand.
They were going to hold their reception in some kind of like ancient building from the 1600s or something, but there were anti-Bezos wedding protesters. Like there was a group that just formed to protest the Bezos wedding. I don't even know what you do with your life if that's a thing, but
I think it was just an excuse. Let's face it. They wanted to go to Venice.
I suppose
that was the excuse.
But like, I'd be embarrassed.
I would be too.
My son is an activist. Really? What does he do? He protests wedding receptions of billionaires. Okay.
That's a hell of a thing to put on your CV. You know?
Like, I'll have you know they had to move their reception thanks to us. So I'm a difference maker. This is the thing. All of the elites that were going to go to this reception and Bezos dropped like $100 million on this, and I'm sad that I even know this figure in my head, but this is the extent of my anger with the Jeff Bezos wedding. Why the hell do I know about it? But
yeah, I know. It's like I nobody cares. I don't care.
Love you both, but we have a hard stop at 9.
Got it. We're on it. We're wrapping. So basically the group No Space for Bezos, this is the one that was formed, had the idea of coming up with a whole collection of inflatable crocodiles. They were going to flood the canal so the superstars couldn't go to the reception. So they moved it to a different location. I'm making a difference. Okay, that's a wrap.
All right. Tell us where we can find you and make it quick.
Okay, I am at townhall.com. I've got my daily media column there called Rift from the Headlines. I'm also on the front page of Red State, where I've got my twice weekly podcast, Liable Sources. And you can hear me on this network. Thursday night, I'm here with Paul Young from Screen Rant for Bad Movies on Disasters in the Making. Alternate Thursdays, it's me and Wardy Packard on The Culture Shift. And, of course, every Tuesday here with the ever-effervescent Aggie Rican. And where can people find more of your magnificence?
You can find me at Aggie Weekend and at Aggie the Barkeep. Those are over on X. You can find me 8:30 p.m. Eastern Tuesday nights doing the Cocktail Lounge with the Ever Swap U. 8:30 p.m. Eastern Friday nights doing He Said, She Said with the awesome Rowdy Rick. The second Wednesday of every month, the guys get together for Toxic Masculinity at 8 p.m. Eastern. And Jeff and I do Spirited Books, 8:30 p.m. Eastern on the first Monday of every month. Thanks very much for joining us, and we hope you have a lovely evening.
And now go raise a glass and look at the ceiling.
Nobody wants to look up there. There's like water damage.
You know what I mean? They got me up. You're running all the dope beats. Check out the hook while my DJ revolves it.